Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Karena Calhoun. I am a life and business strategist for women, for introverted women, specifically entrepreneurs. So, if you're new, if you're just joining us for the first time, hello and welcome, my beautiful friends. Today, we have an amazing episode. I'm super thrilled about this. We have Miss Meg Hall on the show. Meg, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here. I'm
You are
excited about
very
today.
welcome. Awesome. I love it. So, Meg, tell us, where in the world are you?
Well, I currently live in a suburb of Denver, Colorado. I just moved out here about 6 months ago from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay. So I think I've been to Minneapolis, I think, long time ago. Believe that's where I was. I've never been to Colorado. I
Oh,
would love to go there because I have a love, a deep love for mountains.
oh,
So,
yeah. It
oh
is a
my goodness.
gorgeous place. And yeah, so many options and so many things to see. And every season has its own beauty. Yeah, it's
So
wonderful. You need to
now
come.
are you in in a valley, or how does that work there? I know my husband is from Roanoke, Virginia, which is a valley. So
Mhm.
we're at the foot of the mountains there. So how does that work where you are?
Yeah, so we're located on the Front Range. So we're, as they call us, the Mile High City. So we're a mile high. So pretty significant altitude. But then there's mountain ranges right behind us, and down from us all along the Front Range, there's beautiful mountain ranges that go up to, 14,000 feet. We're at more about 4 or
Yes.
5,000 feet.
Wow. Wow. I would love that. So what kind of food do you all have there? I know, listen, I'm a foodie. I love food from different places. And so I don't think there's a difference in food in the mountains, but it could be. I don't know.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I think who you're associating with, who your friends are, who your family is, probably has more to do with the food that you eat. I mean, there's some fabulous restaurants here, both steak and seafood and Indian and Asian, and there's just lots of variety. And we have both very high-end restaurants and then, just your average along with the fast food. So, I think it's very similar probably to other parts of the country.
Yeah. And are there any large bodies of water around?
No, we have a lot of lakes, but they're not
Okay.
really big. It's really much more about the mountains.
Gotcha. I'm gonna have to come visit you
Yes,
one day. You're gonna be my excuse to get there.
exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
I love that. I said one time recently that what I need to do, because I've talked to people literally all over the world. I need to get a map to put behind
Hmm.
me. And every time I speak to someone, just put a pin there and just to show all of the places that I've been virtually. So I love that. I love it.
Yeah, and then you could put another pin in there when you actually go there in person.
Yes, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. I love that. I absolutely love that. So, Meg, tell us, how are you loving on the world around you these days?
So I think, especially these last few weeks have been very powerful for me. As you know, Karina, my mom passed away about a month ago, and we had
My
her memorial
condolences
service
to
last
you.
week. And it was really powerful reconnecting with so many people from my childhood and family, friends, family. And one of the things that I became real aware of is what a different person I am now than who I was when I was either a child or a young adult. And so it's gotten me really reflecting. My daughter and I spent some time talking about generational growth. And when I think back on my mom, she had a pretty normal childhood, but for whatever reason she married my father, and he was very abusive. His mom lived with us and was very abusive. Just to give you an example, she was not allowed to have a key to the house. So if she got home from work and they weren't home, even if it was 20 below, she'd have to sit in her car until they came home. And a lot of control, a lot of rage, a lot of abuse for me emotionally and physically. And she was just stifled, I would say would be a good word for her. She was so controlled. She had so many rules and regulations around her. She could not be herself. And she never moved out of that phase until
Mm.
after my father died. And so 48 years she stayed in that very difficult marriage and relationship and situation. And so my mom and I talked extensively over the last probably 20, 25 years about her relationship, the impact that that childhood had on me, the lessons that I learned. And I feel like a lot of us, and I know certainly me, go through phases of improving and growing and learning about yourself and becoming who you're really meant to be. And so when I look back, I see, I started therapy in college and I made some definite improvements, but not enough. I still had very low self esteem. And so when I chose my first husband, I chose very poorly. I chose someone very much like my father. And I just didn't have that insight, that awareness, all of that to really realize what I was doing. I just wanted someone to love me and care for me. And I thought he did that.
Wow. Wow. What a powerful, just, from the beginning to
Mhm.
now, what a powerful journey you've been on to know that, as a young child, this is what you were born into.
Mhm.
And I would love to know the forgiveness process. That's the
Mhm.
first thing literally that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Mom, you brought me into this relationship intentionally by,
Yeah.
having children,
Yeah.
in this marriage. So what was your forgiveness path, I would
That's
say?
that's a great question. And I think, my forgiveness path has been again several steps along the way. When my grandmother died, I was in college and I just at that time could not forgive her. So she passed and I did not forgive her. And then when my father died in 2009, I had been working really hard on myself and actually was just in the process of leaving my first husband. I had gotten a lot of awareness and insight and actually through many of my hospice patients, because I'm a nurse and I work with hospice patients, or I did. And so at that time, I decided, right towards the end, I told him that I forgave him and I knew that he did the best that he could with what he had, and that he had also grown up in an abusive home. And so I kind of understood. And then I also said to him, when you get to the other side, tell my grandmother that I now forgive her as well.
Mm,
And the relief and the growth in me escalated so much just by doing that.
yeah.
And then I had my mother left, and I hundreds and hundreds of hours of conversation we
Mhm.
talked about, and we just talked about, like, when I would get beaten, I would go sit in a corner in my room and she would sneak in and bring me some cookies or ice cream. And that
Mm,
was the only thing at that time in her power to do to try to tell me she was sorry.
yeah.
So we talked about that. And then, the impact that had on my life as I struggled with eating. I used eating as a way to comfort myself. So I had to gain that awareness as well. And then my mom and I, like I said, we kind of eventually bonded that we were joint survivors of that very difficult time period. And she was extremely proud of me that I had gotten out of my relationship in 20 years instead of staying in for 48 like she did. And that now I was continuing on the next level of growth and awareness to grow and become a better person and to love myself more and to realize that I deserve to be loved.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Wow. So I would love to know, this is just so, I would say that I'm not speechless, but there's so many thoughts that are going
Mhm.
through my mind because I know that so many other women
Mhm.
have endured, encountered,
Mhm.
lived this life.
Yep.
Maybe from one extreme to the other, not necessarily, maybe in the middle,
Right.
but there's been something, because I know myself, just being transparent. So I'm 52, and I just recently, over the last few years, started seeing a therapist. And I can't tell you the amazing
Mhm.
growth that is taking place inside of me because of things that
Mhm.
I experienced as a young child and then as a young adult. And then, like you said, I chose poorly in my
Yeah.
first marriage. It wasn't even that I chose. I literally, and I don't know, Meg, that I've even told anyone this because I've never really thought it to be relevant. But he never asked me to marry him. He came to me one day and said, "You're going to be my wife." And because I had no self-esteem, I just
Mhm.
said, "Okay." I
Yeah.
just said, "Okay."
That's funny because my first husband did not propose either. He just said, "Well, I suppose we should get married. It would save us on taxes." And I
Wow.
said, "Oh, okay." And then we got married. So it was definitely not romantic, the
Yeah,
storybook, get down on one knee thing.
yeah. Which, looking back, I should have run
Yep.
because, he was abusive, mainly emotionally and
Hmm.
mentally, but, there was some physical abuse, but that should have let me know, "Run, girl, run." But, we
Hmm.
don't. We
No, we
don't see
don't.
the red flags. We
Yeah,
see them, but we overlook them. So
exactly.
how has this and I know you said you have really, and this is my own term,
Hmm.
linked arms with your daughter,
Hmm.
partnered with your daughter in, all of this and making sure that, you know, it doesn't continue, the cycle doesn't continue. So
Hmm.
how has that been?
And it's been really, so my daughter went through a divorce just a few years after getting married, and she realized that she just enjoyed the person's family and friends more than she enjoyed the person.
Mm,
And so she was going through a hard time. And so she moved in with me and lived with me for like 5, 6 years. And that gave us a wonderful opportunity, especially during COVID, when all we did was work and sleep. And we got to talk really a lot about, and I have to be careful because I don't want to badmouth her father. But I just talked about, what I went through, what my mom went through, her grandma, what I went through, and the things that I learned after getting
mm,
out of that marriage and how I grew, and that how much I wanted her to do well and to not repeat that cycle. And so we had, like I said, some great conversations. Her first marriage was not abusive at all. It was just they didn't connect on a level. So I told her, I'm actually really proud of you for getting out of that, in a timely manner so that you can find your soulmate, which she now has, and gave me my first granddaughter.
Oh, awesome,
Yeah.
congratulations. I'm waiting on mine.
Yeah.
Patiently waiting.
So yeah,
And
it's
I think
it's been
that's
great.
really, really key, the fact that you have made a concerted effort to ensure she's good,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and to have those deep conversations. I know for myself, I've done that with my own daughter to make sure that those certain cycles are broken.
Yeah. Yep.
Make sure, you understand your worth, you understand who you are, you understand why you are, these things, and that you don't have to go down a certain path.
Right.
Even if it wasn't necessarily the same path as mine, if it doesn't look very bright,
Hmm.
are you overlooking the red flags?
Right.
Let's
Right.
be, let's be vigilant in that. So I love that you're doing that and you have done that. So, what is the message that you want to give to the world? What is it that you want to say to the world, and how are you doing this? I know you've talked about you were once a working with hospice patients, but you now have a business. So,
Hmm.
talk to us about all of that.
Yeah. So, what I've picked out of all of this is we have to have that sense of self, that sense of self worth, the ability to live authentically. So, not being with someone that you have to pretend to be somebody you aren't, where you can be safe and comfortable saying what you want to say, being upset, being mad, talking it through, being willing to be vulnerable. And I think, for me, it was a combination of therapy several different times as I went through the stages of healing and becoming who I am. It was connecting with family, as I've mentioned already. And now I did a lot of leadership coaching in my career, and I continue to do that. But now I'm also working with people on life coaching so that they can understand that those messages, whatever they were that we got as children, are not necessarily accurate. And we can reprogram our brain to understand what our worth really is and how powerful that is in helping us function well at work, have great friendships, have healthy relationships, and be a productive, nurturing, but yet firm parent. And so, if we can work through some of those things ourselves, I think that's, I regret some of the things I did early on as a parent. I wasn't abusive, but I wasn't authentic and I wasn't who I am now. And so I think that's a big part of it is finding therapy, finding coaching, because we can help a lot with validating who you really are and challenging some of those beliefs that we've taken on from our childhood or early adulthood.
Oh my goodness. And I'm just sitting here thinking about, again, the road that you've traveled to get here and how you're literally saying, I'm going to put a hand back to help those that are coming forward, whatever that age
Mhm,
range is. But
mhm,
here are the experiences that I've had. This is what I've learned,
mhm.
and this is how we're going to move forward. And I absolutely love that. So, what is the name of your business and how can we reach out to you?
So the name of my business is First Quality Consulting because I do some healthcare consulting and then I also do life and leadership coaching. And then a sideline, I'm doing weddings. I'm officiating for weddings just because I
Okay.
want that love and joy in my life. But yeah, so I have a website. It's www.firstqualityconsulting.com. And on there, you can just reach out. You can request a discovery call where we can just sit and chat for 30 minutes at no cost and explore your story and then see, if we're a good match that I could potentially help you to reach that new level of authenticity and joy in life.
Oh my goodness. You are extremely needed in
Thank you.
this world. I can tell you that just from my own experience and the folks that I've talked to, different folks that I've talked to who have experienced different things in life. And so, thank you,
Thank
Meg, for answering that call
you.
and for being vulnerable and taking what you've learned, what you've experienced, and saying, now let me go back and get other
Mhm.
folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really a privilege and a pleasure to like we teach in nursing school is your responsibility is to next bring up the next generation of nurses, and I feel that same way with helping others who've had, like you mentioned earlier, varying experiences in childhood. Some have been, extremely much worse than what we've experienced, and some have had just more mild issues. But either way, we come out with a level of trauma or damage,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
we have no one's going to heal that for us. We have to heal that ourselves, and we have to allow ourselves to forgive because then that burden comes off of our shoulders.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a privilege to do this work.
And no longer hiding that
Right.
trauma. That I think that is, the more we hide it, the bigger it becomes,
Yeah,
even over time.
I agree. And I think when I first started to be authentic and share a little bit about my experience, there wasn't a lot of people coming out and sharing that information. So I felt really vulnerable. Now it seems to be more acceptable to acknowledge that you've had some trauma in your life and work towards, healing that and then becoming who you were meant to be originally.
Mhm, mhm. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Such goodness, Meg. I really truly appreciate you
Thank you.
coming by the show and doing the work that you're doing out here in the world. Tell us one more time where we can reach you, your website, and then also any last words of wisdom you may have for those that are listening.
Sure. So you can reach me, my website. I also have a LinkedIn page, but the website is www.firstqualityconsulting.com. And it's First Quality Consulting on LinkedIn if you happen to be there. And on there, like I mentioned before, you can just click the contact and we'll get connected and talk and see if we're a good fit. I would say we need to understand that healing is not a 3-month process.
Mm.
It is many times a lifelong. I still continue to grow and learn. It's a lifelong process, and we evolve and become even better and more value to ourselves and to others as we continue to grow and evolve. So I don't want someone to think because they're 40 years old or they're 60 years old that it's too late to do anything, or that they've already evolved as far as they can. I believe we continue to evolve until the day that we pass.
Yes, absolutely. I agree 100%. Well, Meg, again, thank you so very much for coming by
Thank
the
you.
show and having this really much needed, amazing conversation. So, folks, if you have experienced any type of trauma in your life and you have not allowed it to, if you've not allowed the light to be shown on it,
Mhm.
then you really need to get in touch with Meg. And just sitting here, I can sense the awareness, the calmness, the love, the compassion, and the empathy from
Mhm.
you, Meg. And so for those that are listening, you can sense it. I mean, this is a virtual conversation. We're not in the same room, but I can
Right.
sense it. I can feel it. And so I can attest that you'll be in great hands, great hands. So please reach out to Meg. We really have to be able to heal ourselves in order
Mhm.
to move forward in
Mhm.
the path and the journey, the calling that we have for our own
Mhm.
life. Got to get all of that stuff out of the way in order to see the real us.
I agree.
And
Thank you.
so, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Live our
So
best life.
exactly, 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 and it's time, it's time that we do that.
Yeah.
So, folks, this has been another great episode of Go Be Great with Coach Karena. I am Karena Calhoun, your life and business strategist, and we've had Meg Hall today from First Quality Consulting, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely. So, folks, we will see you all on the flip side, and bye for now.